Good evening, and tonight we're going to talk about the case study for EDL 850. And of course, my name is Michael Grant. First off, Section 1, Summary of the Case. We are looking from the point of view of Keith Sample, principal at St. Regis School, small rural school, about 25 miles outside the city. It's a small population, K through 8, of about 420 individual students. Most of the funding comes from small state allowance, including a candy and gift wrap fundraiser and a PTA-sponsored spring fling every year. In this case, we are also looking at Mr. Sample, who's in his third year of leading in a community he is not from. We also have Mr. Sample, Miss Lynn working together to prioritize software usage and purchasing. We also have some teachers who are wanting extra copies of stuff we did not purchase properly. We are dealing with Miss Brandon, a new teacher from outside of the district, as well as Miss Evans, the PTA president, all of which will have some conflicts and some issues that we will discuss further on in the case. So legal issues of this case, of course, there's no physical or emotional damage done, so no legal action there. The action does, however, violate the copyright law of 1976 and the amendments it followed. There's a definition of copyright usage, essentially is using someone else's property more than what is paid for and or multiple times without that permission. This case also constitutes a break-in contract as part of all user agreements on software comes with either a set number of copies that can be made or a strict no copy policy. So to synthesize, in this case, we are dealing with the school district balancing the issues of trying to get the best for their students on a limited budget while following the laws and not breaking copyright rules. So Section 4, dealing with certain people. We have some tiers definitely involved here in terms of a hierarchy of people we are dealing with. So the important players, of course, are Mr. Sample, Miss Lynn, and Miss Brandon. Mr. Sample, the principal, Miss Lynn, the library and media specialist, working on making those copies, and Miss Brandon, the whistleblower, who pointed out the attention to Mr. Sample on the copyright issues. Also, people mentioned are Miss Williams, a teacher who's very happy to get the extra material, Miss Evans, PTA president, who is happy about the stretching of resources by Miss Lynn, and of course, there are some implied players of Tier 3, obviously the students in the building, the rest of the PTA, and the rest of the teachers in the building, and the community members as a whole. So, Section 4, place and program. Of course, we talked a little bit about this already, but is it St. Regis School, a K through 8, serving the town of the same name. It's located 25 miles outside of a major city. 420 students, 2 teachers per grade, 2 SPED, 1 for K through 4, 1 through 5 through 8. And of course, this is a rural school district outside in the country. Type of program also is a standard public school curriculum, augmented by the use of computer technology. School is K through 8. Third grade teachers specifically are mentioned in this case. Offers limited special education services and is, of course, a public school. So to prioritize the information, the conflict, simply put, this comes down to 2 conflicts. One, the internal conflict between Ms. Brandon and Ms. Lynn, and how that can affect the climate of the school. And the more important issue, of course, is the copying of the programs used in the school district. In all cases, especially in this case, all stakeholders would be directly affected by a pricey lawsuit for copyright infringement. Who has stake? All the important stakeholders in this case are as follows: all staff at the school, students, community members, and the PTA. All have a stake in this issue, as either outcome of the choices to be made would have a trickle-down effect on all stakeholders. Stakeholders, it seems, are relevant, have been informed of what is done, minus other members of the PTA, because it was not specifically explained that they knew what was going on. And of course, students do not need to be apprised of this as well, and I'm assuming that the rest of the PTA will be filled in by the president as per needed basis. Could I learn more? I would love to look at the usage agreements for the specific computer programs, because I could save a lot of time and effort. But with the information I've given, I feel like I can make an educated decision. So to identify my options, option 1, no action taken. This is the path of least resistance, where Mr. Sample simply sweeps Ms. Brandon's concerns under the carpet, if you will, thinking we're too small of a district to be caught, thus having Ms. Lynn continue to distribute the copy materials to all teachers that want them. Option 2, the most conservative option, I feel, would be have all the copy programs removed from all the computers, destroy all the copies that were made, and provide education to all staff in the PTA on copyright law, including why they needed to use the copy programs. Radical option would be to deleting all the copied programs. Next step would be to inform the creators of the programs of the violation of copyright law and show evidence of destruction of the copies. Finally, I would fire Ms. Lin and then have a mandatory staff meeting to inform all staff about the dangers of copyright infringement. And the fourth, remove the copies from the computer, then petition the PTA to use any available funds to buy copies of the materials as needed for the teachers, and have training on copyright law to inform the teachers. Of course, this would be done like an in-service day, not as a mandatory staff meeting after school. So option 1, path of least resistance, of course. This will give the teachers the software they want and makes Mr. Sample look good to staff and the PTA. The cons, of course, the biggest and most important one, it is highly illegal. And it will damage the relationship with Ms. Brandon and make him look like he's willing to only enforce the laws that he feels like he needs to. And this, of course, cover-up could also be a reason for termination later on down the road if that company were to find out and sue the district. Sorry. Mouth's a little touchy tonight. Option 2 makes step towards cleaning up breaking the law. Training for staff is always a good thing, I feel. Safeguarding the future of the district by training them on what copyright infringement is. Taking action shows positive leadership skills, and Ms. Brandon will feel valued in her new school setting. The biggest cons, of course, from teacher aspect will be loss of materials. PTA could be unimpressed with the lack of spreading the dollar farther, as the PTA president quoted. Time consuming to remove the programs, of course, and also to make sure that all the copies are gone, because we don't know any teachers that would scroll away a copy at all. And lastly, Ms. Lin will be less than cooperative, I feel, the next year when the same process has to take place. Option 3, a lot of similar ones here. That's option 2. Chance there will be a company will allow copying for explaining the district's lack of funds. And oftentimes companies will also feel more generous if you are open and honest. However, that's not always the case. An additional con here from the last one, you'd have to hire a new library and media specialist. As well, it could also backfire if the school board lets you go and keeps her, as they feel it was not a necessity to fire her. And then option 4, additional one on the pros here, would be that funding would be maybe provided for, and there would be an option to be presented at the PTA meeting as an alternative to fund that materials purchase, aka another fundraiser or something like that, where they could possibly raise the fund. Additional cons, angry teachers would have to do more training, which they're not exactly jazzed about, and then, of course, no more funding. Best choice. After all things considered, I would go with option 4, to remove the copies from the computers, then petition the PTA to use any available funding to buy copies of the materials needed for the teachers, having training on copyright law to inform the teachers. Reflecting on this, I feel option 4 is the best. First, it moves the school in line with copyright law. It will allow teachers to still use the materials they requested. It will also show teachers that you will go and ask for anything they need if the need is great enough. I also feel like it would establish a good rapport with PTA to make sure that you're looking out for the district as a whole. And adding the training portion also takes away the chance this happens again. Implementation, I feel like all available stakeholders would be advised of this decision. Some may not agree with it, but the ones I can see not agreeing with that choice would be Ms. Lin and Ms. Evans. Ethically, though, and legally, I could not justify going down the path I feel they would want. Stakeholders, with all the options, not all stakeholders, of course, would be advised at the time of the decision being made due to the time constraints, as getting these programs off immediately would be a high priority. Not all the PTA members, I don't feel, would be able to be contacted before this process starts to take place. In the end, all would have the chance to express their opinions when asking for the funding or at that meeting. And I believe that I identified several creative options given the event. So, how would this go down? Firstly, I would come up with a proposal and reasoning for removal of the program and asking for more funding to the PTA. The second step I will take is to send a staff email to all teachers that are using any copy programs to stop using them and to identify computers that are needed the programs removed from. I would also include a brief summary of my proposal to the PTA for them to see, as well as ask for ways to improve it, as to give them stake in this. The third step would be to have Ms. Lin destroy the copies of the programs that she's made on the flash drives. The fourth step would be to remove the programs myself to make sure compliance. The fifth step I would take is to propose my options to the PTA for funding as a collaborative effort from the stakeholders in the building. And the final step would be the staff training day, and hopefully news on PTA's findings. What's next? Of course, there are many possibilities. First, teachers be upset and uncooperative. This would be dealt with warning, and training would be a time to fully explain the reasoning behind the choices. Of course, having that open book policy. Second, Ms. Lynn would be upset that her hard work was not appreciated. I would simply require a meeting one-on-one with her and explain while her heart is in the right place, and I do appreciate her extra effort, I did not want to take the chance of legal action. And thirdly, the PTA would not provide the funding. That's always a possibility. If it's not there, you can't provide it. I would then have the teachers ask for the copied programs the right way the next year. Of course, identify all stakeholders that would need to know are the teaching staff and the PTA. Second, dealing. I would be able to deal with all staff members in-house, either by the email sent out. I would also include the email that if any staff member would like to talk in more detail, I would set up a time and discuss my choices. Full transparency. I would really only feel the need to warn Ms. Lynn for the first instance. I just don't do this again, as she was trying to do what she felt was best for the students and the building, which I have no issues with. People make mistakes when having the right intentions at heart. Of course, if teachers make copies of this and continue to use programs after leading them, I would give them a warning first. Second offense would be a write-up in their personal file, and the third offense would be termination of their contract. So this would be a gross ignoring of policy. The next step then would be to change based on the PTA's choices. I would either purchase multi-license programs in the future with new funding, or would prepare to move forward with the original programs the next time I purchase to look for multi-use programs. And of course, there is my additional resource.